Welcome everyone to the webinar for the FP20 Challenge 13 winner announcement. So today here, you know the two of us, so Federico and me, you've seen us before, you heard us before, you always love us, but we do have a special guest here as well with us, and that's Scott McKenzie. Scott, if you want to give a quick round of intro about yourself so that people know, how are you connected to all of this?
Yeah, so I'm Scott McKenzie. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Fort Vermilion School Division, and I was the person you possibly hated over the last month with the data set. So this is actually our data set, and it's actually our live data set. It's been sort of simplified a little bit, but this is actually the live data or part of the live data that I have to play with every day. So just a little bit of insight into what we are doing within education, especially in our part of Canada, and there is a lot more of it. We use Power BI every day at the moment to inform our decisions, so it's been a bit of a challenge for our school division and our sort of end user seeing reports. So it's been a real eye opener seeing what everybody's done report wise. A new take on things has been really good.
Scott, do you mind me asking how long has been your organization using Power BI?
This is our 4th year now. So we started off pretty small. It started out connecting some Excel workbooks. Now we're connected to Dataverse. The report sample that you got for this challenge is part of our bigger report. It's 32 different data sources. It uses 22 different data flows. It has 180 different row-level security groups, and it now comprises of almost 8 million rows of data in one report. So it's a pretty extensive report.
I see.
So now, guys, when you think about that, if we gave you, a difficult data set, just understand this is a very simple version, a simplified version of what Scott has to deal with every single day.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say to all the participants is that I started like you did. I am self-taught in Power BI. I'm not from a data analysis report level background, so if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, and for me, the people who participate, all the winners, they actually try to and didn't care about the difficulty of data set, and it's the only way sometimes to learn more is actually putting yourself into the trouble and try to work it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be working on the same samples of, typical sales data sets that we all love and hate at the same time, you don't really learn a lot of the things because you're doing the same thing all over and over again. These different data sets, different approaches is what forces you basically to go and learn new things and think about different calculations, the same summarization groups or anything like that. That's the way you learn. And this is one of the things about the challenges that I want you guys to understand, that some data sets are going to be more simple, some are going to be more complex. The reason for that is because life is also not going to be that simple when it comes to data analysis. You're going to have, in some cases, reports where the data is just clean and perfect, right? Never happened to me before, but hey, I hope for the day still to come. But in reality, you're going to have messy data. You're going to have to clean it. You're going to have to figure out, how do I convert all of this? How do I control these things? Even if you remember the date table that we gave to you, that's also something that Scott had to manually create. So you always have to think about, okay, I have this situation, but what do I do to solve this? There's always going to be these questions and these different inquiries.
The idea of finding a data set with 5-dimension table and 1 fact table, and that you can then link them together. Guys, get that out of your head. You're going to find 20 or 13 different dimensions with 3 fact table. Every dimension have 20 to 30 columns. You start to cleaning, taking off, and changing and amending. So that's what you can expect in real life and real world, not the 4-dimension and the fact table.
Yeah. Or the most favorite ones, right? When you have just a massive table in Excel where you have like 150 columns and you're like, yeah, this is going to be fun. So trust me, guys, we've been through all of these steps. We all learned Power BI in different ways, participating in challenges, going through forums. Just, the thing about starting with Power BI is a lot of people are kind of afraid of failing. Never consider anything to be a fail itself, right? Just learn from the experience and think about, okay, what should I have done here in order to get a better result? That's it. If you're going to keep yourself in the mindset of failing, well, that's kind of what you're gravitating, right? But yeah, what we're here for today is to go through the top 5 submissions. The order is, of course, going to be randomized, right? It wouldn't really make sense to go through every single one of them. And we're going to be talking about them, telling you what we like about them, what we think could be improved upon. Our opinions might be different. That's also I'd say, the good side of discussions always. You don't have to all agree on one thing, right? There might be different opinions. And this is something to keep in mind as well. When you're creating reports, trust me, the same template is not going to work for everybody. The same concept works for everybody, like having visuals that communicate, having a layout, and that sort of stuff. But specific visuals and colors and so forth, those are always going to be specific to the user. All right. You guys ready?
We are.
Let's do this. Take the screen, find the right one. Not share anything I'm not supposed to share, right? There we go. So let's start off with the first one. So one of the top 5 submissions is by Lashmi. Let's open it up and see what we have here. So what we do have here is we get a couple of KPI cards. We get a few slicers here at the top. We have the sort of an overview of what time range we're looking at. We have few parameters. We can switch between the years or the periods and semesters and that sort of stuff, the assessment levels and level groupings, and a few other visuals where we can investigate the things. So, I don't know, Federico, you want to take the first hand maybe at this one?
Okay, I'm going to go from the top.
Sure.
No KPI, they are metrics more than KPIs. They are not properly aligned, guys. Anything that you can do to make the report look more professional is going to give you points. I can tell you that if the report look good, it work better. Psychologically, it's proven, okay, that when you see you like it, it's better for the end user. And then we have thousands numbers in there. There is no a comma separator. You might decide to put a comma. I'm being 6,392.
Mm-hmm.
The score distribution look okay for me. I don't know if I will use an score distribution, but I like it. And I think probably is something that Scott might actually use in his day-to-day reporting. Apart from that, everything seems to be okay. Maybe a little bit of touches here and there, but it's well built and simple to read.
Okay. Scott, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I like the overall. Couple of small points from me. So up on the top right, the type and group, I think that text has just been made to be white, just to pop it out a little bit better, just on the background. The one other thing I would say, and this is a general, so those cards, and I know that there's some misalignment, but and it's the same with all visuals, the pins that you can specify in the visuals, and if you hover over them, you'll see that they come up and it's like filter. Generally, any visuals I don't want the user interacting with, I switch the pins off. Again, it just makes it cleaner, because again, when you're hovering over cards, you can see that pin has just gone over the type drop down. So it's small little areas like that in terms of, if you don't need the pins, switch them off. If you do need pins, make sure that you understand what the user may or may not connect with and do. This goes for all reports. The one thing is that a lot of the people who read these dashboards aren't in Power BI all the time. This might be a tool set they're in once a day, once a week. So simplifying things for them that have less clicks is always a good option. If they can't click on something or get lost by clicking something, it's generally an easier way. But I thought the report itself was good. I like the distribution chart. We use those distribution norm charts in all the reports. We have a slightly different variation of it, but we do use those because we can see our group bandings. So yeah, overall I liked it. Maybe a little bit more of a palette and clean would just be, a little bit more color just to separate some of them. But I think overall we were a really good effort, this one.
All right. From my side, similar comments. So for the KPI cards, like Federico and Scott mentioned, you can always align them. So just a quick example. Let's take a report right here. So I have 4 different cards. And for those of you who don't know, Power BI already helps you with this in specific ways. Select all of the cards. Make sure that the first one and the last one is in the positions where you want to have them. So let's say I want to align based on this line right here, and for example, on the very edge right here. Then I select all of them, go to the Format tab, align, and just distribute horizontally. Small little things, but trust me, visually it makes a lot of difference. It makes it a lot more pleasant to be viewed. And trust me, the way on how we learned about this is we got a lot of comments from the users. That's what usually happens, right? When they look at it, they're like, yeah, it could be, properly aligned and so forth. And after a while, it just becomes a part of your routine to make sure that all of these little things are going in a good way. For me, what else was, it was the fact that these 2 parameters as well, similar to the cards, they were completely different sizes and not aligned to anything. So for example, this one should have started right here, could be, for example, like half of the chart and the other parameter right here, just to make the feeling of the design a little bit more polished, right? But overall, I'd say it's a great use of the tools. I like the fact that even the donut chart, for example, does have a drill down. But one thing that I noticed when I started to play around with is I think the setup should have been the other way around. You should have started with the group and then ended up with the level. Because otherwise, right now, every single time I drill down, well, it's in the group average and above, okay? If I go for, let's say, above average, again, average and above average. So they're always giving me just one single value as an end result. So having them the other way around, the group first and then the level, would allow me to see a categorical grouping, and the drill down would unveil more information. But in this case, the drill down feels obsolete. Like it doesn't give you any additional information. Could be just a small oversight, happens to all of us as well. But overall, I'd say it's a good quality report. It's a good effort, but there are certain things which would allow you to make the report a lot more user-friendly. That's my main comment here.
Yes.
All right, you guys ready for the next one? Let's go. Let's take this one. Always zooming in and out. That's the joys of web browsers, right? So the next report is a submission by Prathamesh. I think I saw you in the chat as well, Prathamesh. So congratulations on getting into the top 5 at least. So if we open up the report, I can start off this one. So one of the things that I like is, and I think you guys can agree with me, the design seems sleek. It seems like a design that a person has thought about this. So he's highlighted certain aspects. There's specific contrast colors and everything. The slicers, again, it looks aligned perfectly. They have a specific style to all of them. So it seems unanimous, right? You kind of know what you're kind of doing here. The same goes when you go to a different page. The same style is being applied. Sure, we're now talking about costs and that sort of stuff. So some of the colors are changed, but I have an overall feeling that this is unified in a sense. What I also like about this is that you have this information overlay just to explain, for example, what is where, how to interact with the visuals and so forth. Explains the clear filters. And this one was an interesting approach. I've never really seen people use it a lot. It's basically a button which allows you to hover over it, and you get a GIF which showcases how to use the drill down, reset, and zoom out, and that sort of stuff. I think it's a nice touch. I would probably maybe have it somewhat organized. So for example, showcase the drill down, then showcase the zoom out, what the reset does, kind of showcase multiple variations of it. But I really like the approach here. It's a nice way on how you can hide a lot of the additional information just beneath under external elements. Because remember, you could always do this same GIF as a separate visual, but then it would be just always rolling and rolling and rolling, right? You could have it in the overlay, but in this case, the author decided that, hey, this is a nice approach that I can actually utilize. And I can tell you, having GIFs in this manner, I don't remember if I checked how you achieved this, but a while ago, having a GIF within Power BI and to make sure that it's getting animated was a bit of a struggle. We had to basically add a visual, which could be a scatter plot, for example. Then you needed to add the GIF as a background for the visual, remove all the lines and everything, and that was the only option to have a moving GIF. So trust me, guys, there's always has been workarounds, and there's going to be workarounds in Power BI. So don't be afraid to kind of play around with these things. But yeah, other than that, I also like the fact that whatever I apply here in the filters, I get a good understanding of it right here in the tab. The one thing that you could handle a little bit better is those cases where, for example, I don't have any data, because in this case, for example, no data. So what caused the no data, or what did I do to basically get that, right? Just a little bit of playing around. Because remember, one thing that we always recommend you to do is play around with what you have within the page. Play around with the slicers, the buttons, the charts, and everything. See if nothing breaks. See if everything still fits nice and neatly, if you don't have any exceeding numbers outside the borders and that sort of stuff. But other than that, I think it's a very nicely polished report. And I can only say congratulations. It's a good report. Federico?
Oh yes, I like it. I like it because I got OCD on how you align things on a report. Everything is what it is supposed to be. It has done a very well use of color. It's simple to see. It's not really on my face. The trick with the GIF, I did it before, and I'm quite pleased actually. He probably did better than me because he's probably very well market. But yeah, you say I normally enter a major blank, and then in the background you do the GIF. So a great idea. Perhaps I would have done it in every individual visual, so they know how to use every individual visual individually. Apart from that, I don't know if I would have a
Unfortunately, I think we lost Federico. Federico's back.
Overall, I really like it. Excellent work.
All right, Scott?
Yeah, again, I thought the overall look and feel of this was actually very good. Small couple of pointers from my side. The school year and the assessment as the slicers on the left-hand side have been set as single select. Now, if I want to, as a report author, see a difference between the 2 years or a comparison, there's no real way for me on that chart to see the comparison year to year without clicking through. It's same with the assessments. I mean, these assessments are all, and again, it's understanding the data, but these are all literacy assessments. So all three together are a literacy component, where we are within literacy. The 3 then assessments are a breakdown of the individual parts of that literacy. So just the ability to multi-select on school year and assessment would have just really peaked out for me as well. The only other thing for a report user coming in, there's obviously a lot of terminology like CF to LY. Those you either would need a key to explain to people first coming in, what is that? I mean, obviously last year, current year, and so on. But I think somebody jumping in, it hasn't been in there the first time, doesn't understand. You either need to give a key to what these terms are, or just make them full terms. And I know that putting full terms in there can take up more space. But again, that's just, whether you need to lay it out. But I think overall, it's a really good look and feel. It's a really good use of the tool set itself.
Because one thing, if you remember, guys, from the workshop when we talked about a data set, I said there's no reason for you to hide information that could be necessary for other users. In this case, the same. If you have any definitions that you have adjusted based on the scenario, you can easily create the same in the info page, for example, or create another button which would be definitions, where a user can just click and see all the definitions and understand, okay, that refers to this one. Because remember, at the end of the day, if you're doing this every single day, you know them by heart. But somebody who sees these for the first time, like Scott said, right, he might be looking at it like, what the hell does that mean? All right. Oh, I don't have camera on. My apologies for that. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's do it. All right, the next submission is by Norman. So Norman, if you're in the chat, congratulations. You're also in the top 5. And let's open up this one. Let's open up the interactive version of it. And I'm also going to quickly paste it in the chat. There we go. So for this one, the one thing that I really liked about this is when you look at it, right, the very first initial grasp is that it kind of gives you an understanding or a preview of what all the colors represent. It's not done in a typical way where you just create a regular legend or something. The author actually thought about creating these cards which identified the general consensus of what group does it belong to. The only small little issue I had with this is that I understand that it's done for design purposes, but for this one, when you have fall, winter, spring, I understand also the color choice. But again, these colors are very close to these poor, average, and other grading systems. So I would have chosen something slightly off from the original palette. I would keep it in the general area, but have it slightly more different. I understand why you did it. Just a little comment on my side. What else? The slicers. We already talked about this, and Scott covered this. Same principle, right? We can actually select multiple years, but no, we can't. It was a lag. Okay. We can select a single one, so I can't really choose which year against which year am I comparing. To kind of see, for example, okay, how have we grown from 2021 down to 23, right? How have things changed overall? Play around these ones, clear all the slicers, go back to the very initial view of it. For these ones, I think we have multi-select. Also, no, Power BI, why are you lagging when I need to showcase something, right? It's a story of my life. But overall, I think these KPIs are very good. They're nicely, neatly positioned on the side that they're not obtrusive, right? They're not kind of jumping in your face. You can see them if it's necessary. But the main thing about the report is going about the grading systems and how they're comparing to each other. The things that I also liked about this one is this one right here, which I think is an interesting approach to a typical way of just splitting everything into 2 pages. Because the other page would basically consist of cards. You have a little bit of information that you want to add on top of it. So instead of creating a page, the author created a nice info pop-up, basically, which gives you the cards when it's talking about the costs. The only thing that I would like to have some control over here is that I would be able to play around, for example, with some of the information that's underneath here. So I could choose, for example, which school I'm talking about and so forth. Just a little thing. Other than that, information overlay. Now this one looks nicely done. Very good. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add on top of it. Down to you guys, Federico, Scott.
Scott, please.
Yeah, this one really appealed to me quite a bit. The actual color scheme for the group levels is pretty close to what we use in our own report. So we have this graduated from like red up to blue. So I thought the colors, when I first looked at it, I thought, yeah, this is really close to where we are. Obviously, the multi-select slicer, you can't do it at the left-hand side, but you can multi-select the school. So, of course, then you've got multi-select school, but you can't, when you do some of the breakdowns, see actually where those schools lie, say, within the average. So you can't see the 3 schools. There's not the drill up, drill down. But, these are small things. And, again, if you're using the data all the time, but the actual layout I thought was good. I thought the drill through page that you can get to with the level of detail, I thought that was exceptionally well thought out. The pop-up card is maybe a little bit big for the data. It actually hides quite a bit of the data and it's quite obtrusive, but the actual premise of that card popping up is really good. So I like the drill through page. I like the detail. So all in all, a really, really good, clear, concise report. I thought the colors really worked pretty well. Maybe just look at your spacing. It's quite busy on screen when you first get in there. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but it's quite busy on the eye because of the colors. So, and I know that, in the real world, this is possibly maybe 2 or 3 pages rather than the 2 pages you're constrained to. So, so I know that's part of the challenge to try and fit everything into 2 pages, but it's a little busy in the eye. But I thought overall it's a really, really good effort on this one.
I don't have much to say apart from what you and Scott already mentioned. Is some of the visual I don't use the what do you call that, the box plots or whatever is down there.
This one,
yeah. Don't use these kind of visuals. I'm more of a business intelligent guy that they use all the more complicated to read visual. At the same time, if I'm thinking about user experience, they are not data scientists. They are not used to see this type of chart. I would have simplified perhaps some of the visuals, but overall, it's a great report. The colors, the color palette is quite pastel color palette, quite nice and easy going to the eye. And you have different colors. This is the time when you have a lot of colors, but they are not actually slapping you in the face at all. They are easy to consume. And that, I think it's an excellent report. I really like it.
All right. Anything else to add, gentlemen? Guess not. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next submission that's in the top file is from Isabel. Isabel, if you're in the chat, congratulations. Let's open that up. Zoom out a bit because I already played around here. Let's do a fresh load because I know that was not supposed to be there. There we go. All right. One of you guys want to take the first hit on this? Scott, maybe you?
Yeah, again, I thought this would be a really good, so we have a number of different reports. We have like our school administration reports, which are our leaderships in school, our teachers, and then we have like our board and trustee reports. I thought this would be a great sort of board, high-level trustee report. Where it's really clean, it's really concise, it gives some really sharp answers to the general sort of focus questions. So I did think this one was, really nicely laid out. I would consider this more a high-level management report, which is good because you need sort of the detail reports and the high level. And I get obviously the buttons at the side would take it into more detail if you would want to. But again, really concise, really clean. I liked sort of how these popped up. The only one thing for me that detracted slightly was when you do, say, the trend analysis or the detail on the pop-up cards.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I want to hit that bar, I want to click on that bar to see the assessment levels, it disappears. So I think the pop-up cards don't have an interactive feature. I don't know exactly what you've done with those pop-ups, but as soon as you open up the bar or the trend, you can't drill or click anything else. If that had been interactive when you can pull up the trend, then drill down further, this would have been really excellent. But as a high-level management dashboard, I think this is one that our board would come in and appreciate. It's simple, it's to the point, and they can see exactly what they're doing.
Yep. And I think the root cause for this, when you mentioned when it closes, might be just because of, in Power BI, guys, remember that you have this option under General. So under Properties, and I think it's under Advanced, Maintain Layer Order. So unless you have properly positioned all the layers, what could have been basically what's happening here is there might be some sort of a background here used, and the background is basically sitting in front of it right now. So when you click on the background, there might be an action associated with it. Because the same way as Scott mentioned, that was the first thing that I wanted to do as well. I opened up trends. I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. I have all the splits and everything, but I want to choose one specific period that I want to investigate further. And as soon as I do that, it just closes up and it's like, oh, I wanted to see that. So it kind of leaves you wanting more. I mean, maybe sometimes it's not a bad thing. In this case, it just felt me like I didn't get what I wanted with it, right? It's a nice insight, but I didn't get the full information that I wanted with it. And it's the same thing right here also on the details. Because as soon as I click on something, it just closes down. Unless you're using these two charts at the bottom. So, and then again, if these two work, right, and that one doesn't work, it gives the expression, not the expression, but kind of feeling for the end user that he might have done something wrong because one works, the other one doesn't. So it's again going back to that unification of experience for all the users. The one thing that I definitely liked about this, and this is not so much data analysis or anything, but with every single report, remember that a crucial part is going to be the data storytelling and navigating your users through the report, especially for newer audiences. And I really like these pop-ups right here. So for example, if you click on it, sure, we can, expand this further, but it's not just yet done. So it's coming, but it's not yet done. So inform about it. That way you keep them kind of wanting to get more. So we're kind of raising that appetite a bit. I like the fact that there's an option of right here to get a full tutorial. The only thing about the tutorial is, guys, remember, play around with every single option that you have here, all the screen sizes and everything. Because in this one, everything was doing good. I was going through these and I'm like, well, just feels nice that all the images and everything have been thought about, right? The position and so forth. But then you get to this one. And you're like, here are other sections dashboard that could I guess it's the same one, but I have no idea or I have no option of clarifying it. So just a small little thing, but again, all those small little things makes up all the difference. That was one other thing, and the other thing that I noticed here, I'm actually gonna quickly refresh the report because I think I accidentally broke something. Happens as well. So I'm gonna go quickly refresh it. There we go. And that is, now I understand what I broke. If I go to details, and if I select one region here, closing this one keeps all the filters. And there is no easy way of the user to get back to that initial state. So user gets lost. So you have to think about all these options and how do you provide that information to the user. The other thing, under details, you were using the ZoomCharts for the drill down. Whereas if I go back here, Let me get back more columns. There we go. Close it down. Here, you use the native visuals. So for the drill down, I see this option, drill down to see more records per school, but there's no way of me knowing how to drill down because clicking in this case doesn't work. Drill down is only available if you right click and choose drill down. So you're forcing the user through multiple experiences within the same sort of visual, right? Might not be that big of a difference in your opinion, but these small little things do make a lot of difference. And trust me, when people are new to Power BI, when they see this for the first time, they're gonna be annoyed. Trust me, I've been through this. Scott has probably also been through this. As soon as you mix and match different experiences, somebody is gonna tell you, "Hey, I think this is broken." The other side is gonna say, "Hey, I think this is broken," or "Why do they not work the same?" So there's always gonna be some back and forth about it. So it's just something you want to make sure that you unanimize. I like these small little filters, which are kind of hidden, so you're not taking too much space. But I would probably add all of them under a single tab, rather than separating them into separate semesters and then here, because now if I want to choose a municipality and then a semester, I have to go through 4 different windows, basically, right? To just apply 2 simple filters. I like the design idea about it, but the execution could be a little bit different here. That's my opinion. Remember, guys, don't take our opinion if you see something, that we say could be improved and so forth. Don't take it as something bad or we think that you did a poor job or something. No, this is just our opinion. We're giving you our feedback on things that you could improve upon later on. It doesn't mean that the report is bad or the implementation is bad. It's just that it could be also done a little bit differently. That's it, right? This is a learning experience. This is what we're all about. The main goal for these challenges is for you guys to have an environment where you can play around with visuals, play around with different data sets. Some of them real life scenarios, some of them are randomized data sets where you can freely learn Power BI and all of its features. Because the main idea about all of these reports and what we're kind of going towards is, you probably noticed this as well, we're trying to give you reports which have different dimensions, which have multiple levels of drill down and so forth, to kind of go towards the experience where you allow the user to control the way that it behaves. So you're basically creating sort of these pro reports, professional reports, which all have the same template as a base, but the implementation could be done in multiple variations. So I just hope nobody gets, offended by any of our comments or anything.
Why? I think Isabel started a very good job here.
Yeah.
We have room to develop further. I know Isabel is a good data visualizer. The only thing I don't like is that report is quite dribble-alike. That way we go to pick up inspiration dribble behind different pages, and probably that way she got the inspiration. It lose that Power BI touch and become more a UI report than a Power BI report. But I love it. I love the configuration. Everything is where it has to be played. The tooltip are beautiful, the little tooltip. But I think they have plenty of room, Isabel, to actually take that report further and make an excellent report.
I'd say it's a very good base, and with minor adjustments, this could be a very good report. And the good thing about this is, like Scott said, right, you started off with the dashboard. So this could be even renamed as, for example, let's say executive overview, where you just see the main figures, and then you can go into deeper analysis with each and every other of those pages. So there's always going to be multiple variations in how you can tackle this.
Correct.
All right, we're kind of running through these, right? We're down to the last one. All right, you guys ready? So let's open it up. The last submission that has gotten into the top 5 is from AJ. And let's open it up. Let's give it a fresh load because I've played around with it and I just want the users to get the same experience and not something else, right? So you start off with this page, which basically tells you quickly about what the data set's about and what we're going to explore. And then you go down to the report. Now, I like the overall design of it. I like that the same colors are used for the same principles. The similar in the other report where you had from red going to blue. These ones are more prominent colors, but I also understand why the author did it. If we would have used, let's say, this color palette on this background, those colors would diminish a little bit as such, right? So it would be a little bit harder to read them. So these allow you to notice all the values a little bit better. The few things that I noticed here and kind of got me curious is the fact that I like the approach that you have questions and kind of what you're answering with them, right? It's an interesting approach. But at the same time, these text blocks take away a lot of space. I basically have to read all of this before I start using it because that's what typically people do. When they see text, they first try to understand if there's anything, I'm missing, for example, and then they start to play around with it. If we go with these two visuals, the one thing that I noticed is that they filter out each other. I would probably disable the filtering between these two instances. Because otherwise, there's no real add benefit of me selecting one and then just having one specific bar here, right? I would keep them just so that the user can see always the comparison between them and play around with the information. What else? The one thing which I noticed here, and this is what a lot of you have done, is you kind of had two field parameters of school years and year school, kind of different approaches, right? And in this case, this is an oversight. It is 100% an oversight, but look at this, right? When I open it up, you can see that year in school is highlighted, right? So it makes me feel that that's the page that's opened up. So I click on school to year, nothing changes. So what's really happening there is this tab is active, but the state where you saved the report had this page selected and the other visual visible. It's an oversight, complete oversight, no worries, it can be easily fixed, but these little things, I've mentioned this to you guys a lot of times. Play around with it, play around with it, play around with all the options, all the buttons and everything. I know it's annoying, but it is something you have to do. It's your job as a developer to make sure that there's no such small little issues, right? There's going to be they're always going to be there. Somebody's going to find them. Trust me. I've been working with ZoomCharts visuals for over 6 years now. Sometimes when people notice certain things or certain bugs or something and they explain to me, I'm like, how did you even come up with this scenario, right? There's always going to be some interesting cases on how people break what you have created, but you have to try to eliminate as many of these options as possible. I like the fact that you also have these two variables, so I can switch between the absolute values and the percentages, and I can also go into either the groups or the level, right? The one thing though that again you have to be very cautious about is if I click somewhere on the background right now, and this is again going down to layer orders. If I hover over the text block and in certain places if I click, that comes in front of the whole block. So at this point, you have few options. Either the user gets scared and refreshes the report, or he's going to tell you, hey, I think it's broken. This is just something that comes from my experience personally. That layer order, so this setting right here, is very important. And as soon as you start to play around with layers, make sure that you also have this selection panel opened up so you can see exactly which item is standing above which. Small little details makes the whole report, right? So we had also the second page here. Similar thing, you have different field parameters that allow you to switch between them. This is something that I would probably have it in a slightly different color or increase the gap between them, because even if I zoom in and if I switch this one, if I zoom out a little bit more, I think you guys can agree with me, it kind of looks like a button that I'm supposed to press as well. It's very similar in design to the button. So just try to avoid these little things. I like the fact that you have these additional info pop-ups. that kind of explains certain things about the visual. Like I said, I really like the approach of questions and explaining what you're analyzing there. But I think the text in certain cases is a little bit too much. That's my opinion. Scott?
Yeah, I think I think the question in the text, and I get obviously the premise of what it's doing. It's trying to answer the question in the challenge, and this report is more. What I felt with this report was that it was designed specifically for the challenge, not necessarily the exercise itself. Where here's the question, here's the answer. But I think overall, the actual functionality of the report, if you take out some of the text, some of the wording, some of the layout, it is really good. Color-wise, brown on brown, tan on tan, it's a little bit, there's not enough pop to it. And again, these text boxes and backgrounds and so on, just make sure you're looking at contrasts and what they are, because I think you've got the majority information there. The layouts are good. It's just you're now detracting from trying to make a theme of brown, which it not necessarily is. I particularly like the filter panel on this one, where you pop up the filter panel at the bottom and it pulls everything up. I think that was a really nice feature. And again, especially the box that shows you on the right-hand side what filters you selected. So I did think that filter panel was particularly good. The fact you can multi-select on it as well. Just be aware that, depending on the order of the selection, your filters will change. So doing above average will change your assessment level. So again, if you're looking at the hierarchy of the ordering, you can change them around potentially because one will cancel the other. One trick or tip that I use if I want to do colors or layouts on a background, and again, this gets past the layer order, is I will normally design my backgrounds in PowerPoint. So I will design my whole background in PowerPoint, and I'll have my little sort of color blocks that I know that's where I want to do a layout inside. And then I'll export that PowerPoint slide as a PNG and use that as my canvas background. Then all my visuals, I remove the background from it. So it's a transparent background. So again, depending on how you want to do it, you can almost block set your whole report. I use PowerPoint, but there's other tools you can use out there, Liquid and so on. But you can get a look and feel how you do it, and then lay your visual over your page. Now, the other thing from that is that the rendering on the Power BI service is actually quicker if you use a single background. When you've got all these text blocks and boxes and rectangles and shapes, it actually takes quite a while to render. So over and above the layer transparency, you can actually just slow down the report from it as well. So it's one to just think about. But I really do like sort of the interactivity in this. I like the detail in this. I think it's just, again, some small tweaks around the color and the text blocking, but otherwise a really, really strong effort, this one.
All right, Federico?
I love the filter panel. I would have put the button at the top on the right. It's kind of hidden there at the bottom left. And then we have in our company forbidden developer to use too much buttons, bookmark, or object in report. Why? It's too much. It's too much. It's easy to actually break, bookmark to maintain, object to make sure they are in the right position, as you said before. I will not read the text, as simple as that. Sorry, it's too small for me. I'm 57, I can't see it. And I got my glasses on. And I'm going to congratulate the participant in the amount of work involved to actually build this report, because there is quite a lot of things going on there. Okay? So on that, you have a 10, but I will actually simplify it. Perhaps creating more pages is instead more layers in the report. Apart from that, I like it. I like it. It's good colors. Everything is okay, but for me, it's too much information. Page 1 and 2 are unnecessary, in my opinion. I will jump to page 3, where we are now and build from there. And by my opinion, but at the same time, the amount of work, and I think that is actually we actually pretend in the challenge that people start playing with bookmarks, different way of navigation and different way of tooltips and information narrative or whatever you want to do. So on that, I'm going to give him a 10. So you got 10 from Federico on that area, but I will simplify like a lot. The simpler, the better to use, the simpler for the user, the less complicated for the developer to look after. Okay, and remember, the report is not for you. It has an end user, and the more complication, the worse. So that is my opinion.
All right. Well, with all that said and do, let me just hide what I was trying to hide, right? I'm just going to give you a blank browser. That's going to be what you're going to be looking for a second. I'm going to find the winning report.
Oh, that is the winner report now. Okay,
hey, that's the winner, guys. The design is perfect. Google has done a great job.
The drummer.
All right, guys, you ready? So give us the drum roll. And the winner of this challenge is going to be the report submitted by Norman Reynaldo Sevilla Castro. Congratulations to you, man. It was a great report.
Norman, excellent. He already have won a couple of challenges previous in the Spanish competition I ran aside. So I know the guy is doing great. He have a small consultancy, it's Norsap, after the FP20. So great, man. I think you are doing very well. Congratulations in the winning. Hey, keep coming and keep winning.
That's the thing, right? You don't have to start international straight away. You start off locally and then you go international once you have some background with it. Now, guys, don't worry about it. Like, congratulations to not only the top 5. I would just want to comment on the fact that there were a lot of interesting ideas as well in the reports. There were some very interesting design ideas on the backgrounds and the templates of the charts and so forth. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who has participated. I want to say congratulations to every single one of you as well who did submit a report, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the winning part itself, right? Winning is great, but it's optional. The main thing here is that you did decide to go ahead with it. You did challenge yourself. You did some analysis, and you learned some new stuff on the way. Any other words from you guys?
I think
silent.
No. I think that
go ahead.
I know that the people came to me with some complication understanding of the data and the data set. As Scott mentioned before, that is not complicated at all, but he knows his data set. But for those guys participating, you are all winners, because I know sometimes it is a struggle to understand when you have in front of you. That happened to me in my work. I work for a consultancy and I have report about education and finance and business intelligence and
seems like today is not the day for the connection. It is what it is, guys, right? You can't always control everything.
I froze our game.
It's okay, man.
For those who decide to participate, so congratulations to everybody. Congratulations to the winners. And remember, I also have my winners for my side of the challenge. I will see you later.
Exactly.
Scott, any last words from you?
I think just, thank you to everybody for obviously playing with the data set. I understand that it's obviously a newer challenge, a different level of data, sort of information that you've never seen. So for all the participants that even took a crack at this, great. It's opened my eyes up to what, potentially I might change in my reports. I think there's been some, different ways that I've even seen. I thought, well, maybe I could utilize that as well. So yeah, it's been a real interesting one, and I have already offered to Leanne earlier on that should you wish later in the year, we can give you a different live data set from one of our other many sets that we have. So if that
one of the 150, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, we've got many different data sets. So if another live data set or live sort of real world data set is of something of interest for the group and the people who have done this one, we're more than happy to provide something else for you. So.
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic. We are happy to take that next challenge. Let's go.
Trust me, we're going to take up on you on that. But yeah, everyone,
the next
remember.
One I'll make easier.
But yeah, guys.
3 dimension and 1 fat table.
Just make everything beforehand and give them the sample. No, but guys, remember, before you sign off, and I'm not a stranger to begging on this sense, right? Please fill in this feedback form. The same thing, like Scott mentioned, right? He has other data sets that he can provide. Tell us if you would want to see other data sets like this. If you think the data set was too difficult or was it okay, just let us understand all the struggles and the good things that are happening with these challenges so we can understand how we can improve upon this. Because the end goal is we're not going to try to make, going back to these challenges and create one that basically seems like, well, this is for expert level of data analysis. That's not the end goal here. The goal here is to create a community where you guys can learn, create reports, and basically communicate and network with each other. To create a platform where you can grow.
And make mistake, guys. This is the place to make a mistake. Better you do it here than you do at work.
Exactly.
Feel proud. Feel proud. When you make a mistake, you say, yes, because I did plenty of mistakes. Plenty.
Exactly. And yeah, we did had a question that I saw at the very end. So which approach is better for the information overlays? And you guys can chip on this as well. So whether it's the information overlays, when you have a full page view of different information and the blocks are solved, or would it be the guided tour that Isabel had here? I'd say it depends really on the audience. If the audience is not tech savvy, I think just a regular informational overlay is something that they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with. A guided tour is something that is modern. It looks good for me. It feels very good for me because I'm used to that sort of navigation. We also have it in our examples, but there's no one concise answer to which one is better. It depends on the end user. That's for me. I don't know, Scott, for you?
Yeah, very, very similar. I mean, obviously where I work, we have a really transient sort of workforce that, come in and out very often. So generally what I have is, a couple of different report variations, the same data, but one report I will have no sort of pin buttons. I will have no info buttons. There will be, all the reports will be at the drill down level that I expect them to see. So when they click on something, it just clicks. There's no, I've got to click here, right click here, or I need to filter this. And then there's higher level reports where we have more in depth. And then, of course, the other good thing, and again, this comes from sort of once you start using it, that we actually use PowerPoint now. So a lot of the Microsoft tool set, you can embed Power BI visuals and reports inside Power BI. So we use a lot of PowerPoint now, where we frame the language in there and embed the live visual inside the PowerPoint. So, and again, that's different techniques. So, but it's the same reports, the same data. So you might have 20 different reports, 20 different techniques, depending on the audience, depending on the ask. And inevitably, whatever you do in a workplace, you'll either be told, oh, you haven't looked for me, or I can't find, or this doesn't work. At which point they'll then be at number 21, 22, 23. And then somebody will say, we need more data. And then you'll be back to square one. So it's constantly evolving. It's something you just, as a report author, you have to live with. But don't take it on a slur in your work ever. It's always a learning. It's always good to get feedback. If you don't get feedback, you never improve. Be it good feedback, negative feedback, you need feedback. If you don't get feedback, you'll never move on. Just take it as it is. Take it as a learning. Take it as a challenge. Take it to improve.
Some inspirational words there. No, but I mean, that's what it's all about, right? We're trying to make everybody understand that it's a lot better to try these challenges and, like Federico said, fail here than to make these mistakes afterwards when you're working. Trust me, you're still gonna make them. Just believe in that. You're still gonna make them. There's gonna be things that somebody's gonna say, well, this looks god awful. You just have to figure out a different way of how to visualize it. That's what it is.
Yeah. And if you want to learn about failure, and this is a true story from just before Christmas, so we hold our data within Dataverse Power BI or Dataverse, and I was cleaning up a table, I was cleaning up a record, but instead of cleaning up the record on the data flow, I deleted every record we had, 1.2 million rows of data, and broke every single Power BI, and then had to tell everybody the reports are broken, and then I had to go and get Microsoft to recover the system, and we were down for 2 days. So, and I've been doing this for a long time. Mistakes happen. There's always a way to rectify them. But I had egg in my face, and I just put my hands up and said, I made a boob, we'll get it sorted. So don't think that, people who've been doing it for years don't make mistakes. We do. And it's a learning challenge wherever you do it. And sometimes you just have to take on the chin, go, that was my bad, and move on. So.
Yep.
I agree 100% with Scott. We continue making mistakes and we learn from them. We are human. We are not perfect. We are not perfect. But I think what I like about what Scott said is that you own the mistake, you fix it, sort it out, and you move on. Next time you will be more careful. It's not for you actually to hide away and start feeling sorry. It has to be fixed, own it, and deal with it. That's it.
Because sometimes, I can even tell you from my experience, sometimes when you own the mistake and not be afraid of it and say, okay, yeah, I agree that's a mistake, I can fix this. And when you provide the fix for it, in this case, I provided 2 other options on how we can do it, and I can actually improve on the same report which initially had the issue, right? So it's always always an opportunity to improve upon. That's it. But yeah, thank you so much, Scott, Federico, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody else in the audience who joined today. I hope that this session was interesting and you learned something new and useful today. Other than that, there's really not much more to say than congratulations to every single one of you who participated. And good luck to the rest of you who haven't yet participated but are willing to try it out.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Scott.
All right, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.